Good evening, and welcome to the latest happenings inside our federal machine.
It's Thursday, January 8th, 2026. This is Spathon with another episode of The Swamp. Revolution! The nation of Iran is in a full-on state of revolt, with government buildings on fire, massive crowds pouring into Tehran, and Kurdish forces moving into the country and actively fighting Iranian security forces. An unverified report of the Iranian leader being smuggled into Russia and the country being plunged into a nationwide internet blackout. Although it isn't directly swamp-related here at home, one can't help but wonder if the toppling of Maduro's regime may have added fuel to Iran's fire. And also, Democrats circulated a rumor that Vice President JD Vance was kept in the dark regarding the operation to capture Nicholas Maduro in Venezuela. And the Vice President joins the White House Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt today at the podium to clear the air. The Trump administration is now targeting the globalist institutions, with President Trump ordering that the U.S. withdraws from 66 major global organizations due to their wasteful nature. Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem announced the success of Operation Silvo, which was carried out in New York City and led to the arrest of 54 dangerous criminal illegals belonging to violent transnational gangs. President Trump announced his intention to sign an executive order which will effectively ban institutional investors from purchasing single-family homes in the future. And there's a lot more that happened today, so we're going to dive right in. And if you enjoyed the video, please give the video a quick like if you can spare just 1 second with a quick tap, and subscribe to the channel if you enjoy the daily updates. And if you leave a comment below, I might just read it on tomorrow's episode. And every article you'll see in the video will be linked right down there in the description below. And we're going to start right here with the Iranian situation. This is Tehran. Let that sink in. You are watching a revolution unfold live while the world's media stays dead silent. Legacy media has become nothing more than a propaganda machine, because what news could possibly be bigger than this? And of course, tagging Fox News and CNN. Apparently, even Fox News isn't giving it enough coverage. And this is from Sana Ebrahimi. Not familiar with her. She's a PhD candidate, passionate about politics, fighting Islamists and terrorists. A retweet is not an endorsement. Opinions are mine. So she's fairly popular, almost 160,000 followers. So she's keeping an eye on the situation. This was posted just 6 hours ago. So let's take a quick look at this video. This is wild, man. Look at that, man. Having a revolution. All right, man. Iran, revolution. War monitor from 5 hours ago. Kurdish militia groups have entered Iran and are fighting security forces. Wow. So they don't link any videos or anything like that. It's just a quick post. Almost 1 million views. They're not really backing it up with any information. I suppose I could jump over to Grok and see if it's working tonight, and maybe I can get a little more information about that. All right, let's see what the results are. Kurdish militia groups have entered Iran and are fighting security forces. Is this true? Sure. No, this is not true. There are no credible reports of Kurdish militia groups such as PJAK or KDPI or others entering Iran from outside to fight security forces as of January 8th, 2026. So fake news. That was fake news. Not happening. Didn't have time to actually verify that before I started the show, but that's all right. All right, just verified it just now. All right, Eli Afriat. Breaking unverified report. Ali Khamenei. I cannot pronounce his name. Khamenei. I think I got it right. Ali Khamenei was smuggled to Russia and is no longer present on Iranian territory. So let's see if this is actually happening. All right, probably not going to be the case. It's a very fluid situation happening in Iran right now. No, this is false. The claim that Ayatollah Ali Khamenei is been smuggled into Russia is an unverified rumor circulating on social media amid Iran's ongoing protests. So, I mean, even Grok, they're not calling it a revolution. Grok's calling it a protest. So it's just a very large protest happening in Iran. Look, is there a guarantee that the Ayatollah is going to be toppled, that the Iranian regime, the government, is going to collapse? Not so sure. Apparently, there's been an internet blackout, so I've read. So there's only going to be so much information that's going to get out, I assume. So let's move on to the next thing. Huge crowds arriving in Tehran 7 hours ago. A lot of noise, a lot of crowd. Okay, so if they posted this video right after this video was taken, with it being 7 hours ago, let me get the exact time. Well, that's our local time. It's currently 4:19 a.m. in Tehran as of this recording. So it would have been roughly 9 o'clock at night when this video would have happened. Maybe an hour earlier. Like I said, if this was filmed on Thursday evening or Thursday night, it probably would have happened sometime either at 9 p.m. or earlier. So it's happening, man. There's a number of other posts that I got. So breaking, the people of Tehran are burning down regime buildings right now. The crowd is massive. Holy shit. Do we know definitively what building that is? Maybe not. I mean, I certainly don't know. No doubt, there is a building on fire. Wow, wow, wow. Iran is erupting. From Reza Pahlavi, great nation of Iran, the eyes of the world are upon you. Take to the streets and, as a united front, shout your demands. I warned the Islamic Republic, its leader, and the IRGC that the world and the president are closely watching you. And that's President Donald J. Trump, of course. Suppression of the people will not go unanswered. And he followed up that post with this one beforehand, where he said, great nation of Iran. Oh, wait, is it the same thing? Yeah, it looks like the same, except with this. Or here we go. Take to the streets and in united ranks, shout out your demands. I warn the Islamic Republic, its leader, and the Revolutionary Guards that the world and the President of the United States are closely watching you. The suppression of the people will not go unanswered. Almost 2 million views from that post. And we'll roll to the next from Nioa Berg. The revolution will not be televised. It will, however, be posted on X. Long live Iran. And she just shared just a simple image of the crowd. And here comes another one. Breaking, brave Iranians are now openly taking to the streets with the real Iranian flag, the lion and sun, placing it on top of a statue as they rise up against the Islamic regime. The entire free world needs to see this. He's trying to get something to prop it up with. I can only imagine the risk that they're taking by doing this. If the regime were to find out who this guy is, I mean, talk about hell to pay. So this is from Tommy Robinson. Protesters now raising the real flag of Iran, the lion and sun, across the country. It looks like it's the same video, isn't it? But maybe he actually gets it fixed in this video. Okay, yeah, it's the same clip. Just wanted to double check, make sure. This is the next one. Noah Majid. Iranians deserve to be free. Massive crowd. Tons of people out there protesting. And is there any others? Nope, that looks like that is it for that segment. But first, I'm going to ask Grok one more thing. What sparked the most recent widespread protests in Iran? Just so we're all on the same page. The most recent widespread protests in Iran starting late December 2025 were sparked by a deepening economic crisis. skyrocketing inflation around 42 to 50%. Dude, you think inflation's bad here? Like at the height of the Biden regime, it was like what? Well, I guess depending on who you ask, it was like 9%, 15%. I think food was like what, 15 to maybe even 20%, or even higher for certain items. Anyway, moving on to soaring food prices and the severe depreciation of the Iranian rial, hitting record lows of 1.4 to 1.45 million to the US dollar. Holy crap, man. So one Iranian rial is well, the other way around. $1 US is equivalent to 1.45 million Iranian rials. I'd really like to take a look at the graph and see how sharp it actually fell over the last year. So it also says they began with merchants striking in Tehran's Grand Bazaar and quickly spread nationwide, evolving into broader anti-regime demands. Credible sources, Wikipedia, I don't know if they're that credible, but all right. Britannica, Al Jazeera, NPR, AP consistently cite these economic factors as the initial trigger, exasperated by sanctions and mismanagement. All right, so I've got this graph to illustrate how dramatic the inflation really is for the Iranian rial, the depreciation free market rate, 2016 to 2026. So back in 2016, it was 38,000 Iranian rials per US dollar, 38,000 per US dollar. And of course, I mean, sounds dramatic, even going back that far, but compared to where it's at now, that really ain't that bad. 38,000, and as of now, it is 1,460,000 rials per US dollar. That is crazy. That is an increase of 38x from 2016 until now. Over the last 10 years, it is multiplied 38 times in its inflation rate. So it's multiplied. So back in 2016, it's 38,000, 1.4 million. Yeah, that's almost 38 and a half times more rials per US dollar over a 10-year period. So I've also got this. Let's see. So I've got it zoomed in a bit more from January 2021 to January 2026. 265,000 rials in 2021. Of course, it's still at 1,460. And then I've got it over the last year. So it did dramatically increase just this year, or at least over the last year. So going from 600,000 and more than doubling in just the last year. So yeah, their inflation is absolutely crazy. Looks like it kind of seemed to be leveling off a bit. Not really sure. It didn't increase too dramatically over the course of a month. But yeah, man, crazy inflation happening in Iran. I think if that were to happen in the United States, imagine if our inflation rate had gone up by 100% over the last year. I mean, we'd probably be facing a full-on revolution here too. I mean, people are freaking out enough with our inflation being at 9%. Couldn't imagine it being 100%. I mean, wow. Talk about a full-on collapse would be the way to put it. But yeah, man, things would be really dire. That's no doubt at all. So I'm sure this is just going to keep being shown in the news, especially if it just keeps building and building. So I'll keep an eye on it. If it continues to get further out of hand, I'll bring it up. All right, so next segment. This comes from House Republicans. Our hearts are heavy following the senseless attack on our friends in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Houses of worship should be sanctuaries of peace, not targets of violence. House Republicans stand with members of the church in prayer and resolve. And this is from Deseret News. 2 people are reported dead after a shooting at a Salt Lake City meeting house of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Salt Lake City Police Chief Brian Redd said all of the victims are adults. He added that police do not believe this was a random attack and that the suspect is still at large.
The gunfire happened outside the church.
This should never have happened. This should never have happened outside a place of worship. It should not have happened at a celebration of life that was occurring inside of the church.
All of the victims in this incident are of adult age. We don't believe this was a targeted attack against a religion or anything like that. We don't believe at this point that this was random. The shooters are not in custody. We have people that have shot people that are out in our community, and we're going to keep looking for them until we find them.
No matter where they go,
so there's multiple.
We will find them. They will be brought to justice.
It's just crazy that these several shootings that have happened over the last year, the shooters they get away, at least in the immediate time frame. And they have been they've been getting caught time after time. it just seems that like they get away and they don't get caught until days later. But yeah, there's no doubt in my mind that they're going to find whoever did this, or the individuals who are responsible for it. It looks like it happened yesterday evening, and it looks like we got a link, from Deseret News. So here's the latest update. 2 dead, 6 injured after a shooting at Latter-day Saints meeting house in Salt Lake City. And this was published January 7th at 8:51 p.m. I'm assuming that was the initial publication of the article. And let's take a look here. So 2 people reported dead after a shooting at a Salt Lake City meeting house of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Salt Lake City Police Department on Thursday morning identified the 2 men who were killed as 38-year-old Sion Vatuvi and 46-year-old Vea, oh man, I cannot pronounce that, Tuli Kihifo. And 3 people are in critical condition, and 3 other victims are in unknown condition as they were taken to medical facilities by private parties, according to Salt Lake City Police spokesperson Glenn Mills late Wednesday. Salt Lake City Police Chief Brian Redd said all of the victims are adults. He added that the police do not believe this was a random attack and that the suspect is still at large. The video clip indicated that there's multiple suspects. We don't believe this was a targeted attack against a religion. Police were called shortly after 7:30 p.m. with reports of a shooting at the meeting house. So it's just after 7:30 last night. The incident occurred in the parking lot of the meeting house at 660 North Redwood Road. A funeral was taking place inside the church. Good grief, man. Sam Penrod, a spokesperson for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, released the following statement on Wednesday night. We are aware of a serious incident that occurred outside a church meeting house at 660 North Redwood in Salt Lake City tonight as a memorial service was being held in the chapel. The church is cooperating with law enforcement and is grateful for the efforts of first responders. And of course, that's what this post shows that they put on X. Until more information is available, all questions about this incident are being directed to the Salt Lake City Police Department. We extend prayers for all who have been impacted by this tragedy and express deep concern that any sacred space intended for worship should be subjected to violence of any kind. Salt Lake City Mayor Aaron Mendenhall spoke to the press Wednesday night outside of the church. Condolences to the families and the victims, she said. This should never have happened. This should never have happened outside a place of worship. It should not have happened at a celebration of life that was occurring inside of the church. Red said they have detained several people in relation to the case, but none are suspects. A suspect vehicle was caught on camera, and police say they have multiple leads about suspects and that the public continues to provide additional leads. As of late Wednesday, police were still unsure if there was more than one shooter. On the road outside the church, there were dozens of emergency vehicles on scene. Okay, so on and so forth. It doesn't sound like that this article is updated, at least as of current. At least not. It doesn't seem to have been updated as much as the video that they posted. So let's see. I think I have one more post regarding this shooting. Rep. Roger Williams, this act of violence against the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is heartbreaking. My prayers are with the victims, their families, and the entire faith community. Hatred and evil have no place in America. This is from House Republicans. Our hearts are heavy following the senseless attack on our friends in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Houses of worship should be sanctuaries of peace, not targets of violence. House Republicans stand with the members of the church in prayer and resolve. And it looks like that's the same video clip that I already played. So very sad. Hopefully they'll catch him as soon as possible if they haven't caught him already. So let me ask once again, see if there's anything new. No, the suspects have not been caught yet. Okay, so they're still looking for him. All right, so we'll move on to the White House. Must watch Vice President Vance rips the fake news media. This was an attack on federal law enforcement. This was an attack on law and order. And this was an attack on the American people. So, and then it says, we stand with all of our law enforcement officers. I'm assuming he's talking about the attack that they have designated as a terrorist attack from that woman who drove her car at federal agents, nearly running one over. According to the President Trump, I believe, there was one agent who was run over, which on yesterday's Swamp, I was unable to show that because this is YouTube, and YouTube doesn't like it when you show graphic video. But I did show the one where agents shot at the suspect because she tried to ram an agent with her vehicle, and they opened fire, and she didn't survive. So anyway, let's hear this from JD
Somebody
Vance.
sent me a photo of a CNN headline about what happened in Minneapolis. And this is the headline. I'm just going to read it. Outrage after ICE officer kills U.S. citizen in Minneapolis. Well,
unfreaking real.
That's one way to put it, and that is the way that many people in the corporate media have put this attack over the last 24 hours. And I say attack very, very intentionally, because this was an attack on federal law enforcement. This was an attack on law and order. This was an attack on the American people. The way that the media, by and large, has reported this story has been an absolute disgrace, and it puts our law enforcement officers at risk every single day.
More and more every day.
What that headline leaves out is the fact that that very ICE officer nearly had his life ended, dragged by a car 6 months ago, 33 stitches in his leg. So you think maybe he's a little bit sensitive about somebody ramming him with an automobile? What that headline leaves out is that that woman was there to interfere with a legitimate law enforcement operation in the United States of America. What that headline leaves out is that that woman is part of a broader left-wing network to attack, to dox, to assault, and to make it impossible for our ICE officers to do their job. If the media wants to tell the truth, they ought to tell the truth that a group of left-wing radicals have been working tirelessly, sometimes using domestic terror techniques, to try to make it impossible for the President of the United States to do what the American people elected him to do.
Well, and the agents
themselves.
themselves.
Our immigration laws. The President stands with ICE. I stand with ICE. We stand with all of our law enforcement officers.
Well, that's good, and I'm glad that he cleared the air as far as that goes. I mean, we can't hear that from enough officials regarding that. But of course, the Democrats, we aren't using violent rhetoric. We aren't telling people to be violent to agents. I mean, give me a break. So what they really need to be doing is arresting anybody who's obstructing them. If they're standing in the middle of the road, arrest all of them. I don't care if there's 100 of them. You know, wrangle them all up, surround them, and arrest every single one of them. They did that during 2020. Remember the Summer of Love when they had all the riots happening all over the place? There were some instances, I believe in Washington, D.C. was one of those instances where law enforcement surrounded a group of like 100 people, and they arrested every single one of them. So it's really frustrating whenever you watch these videos coming out, not only of Minneapolis, but just all over the country where ICE agents are conducting raids or pulling people over or arresting illegal immigrants, and these activists, these rioters, these protesters, they show up and they immediately start obstructing. They stand in the middle of the road. They sometimes they'll throw objects at agents, which is of course assault, and they could be sentenced to prison for 20 years for that. But even simple obstruction could carry up to an 8-year prison sentence. So it would certainly be nice if we start to see more widespread arrests happening. Will that stop them from going out there and doing what they're doing? Probably not. But they need to start rolling out convictions and actually sending these people to prison. All right, so this comes from Rapid Response 47, another one from the Vice President. It looks like it's going to be a quote, so let's just play out the video.
So I've heard a couple of things. One, that I was kept out of the planning for the Venezuela operation. That's false. And another, that Tulsi was kept out of the planning for Venezuela operations. That's completely false. Look, we're all part of the same team. And one of the things that is really amazing about that operation is that we kept it very tight to the senior cabinet level officials and related officials in our government. And we kept this operation secret for a very long time. I'm very proud of that. I think it suggests that the team works very well together. Well, looking ahead, what is my role? Look, my role is going to be whatever the president asks me to do. Well, every other day, I'm chairing the meeting that we do on this among White House principals to talk about next steps to try to ensure that Venezuela is stable, and as the president has directed us to do, to ensure that the new Venezuelan government actually listens to the United States and does what the United States needs it to do under our country's best interest. So I'm going to be as involved as the president wants me to be. So far, that's been very involved, and I'll keep on doing that so long as the president asks me to do it.
Well, there you go. Very well said. You put it quite clearly. So he is involved. He's chairing a group with the ongoing situation in Venezuela. So he's very much involved. I mean, every other day he's involving himself in it. All right, so we got another one. Tim Walz is a joke. His entire administration has been a joke. He's been a guy who has enabled fraud and maybe, in fact, has participated in fraud. Let's give this a listen.
From Tim Walz earlier today, he said, when things looked bleak, it was Minnesota's first that held the line for the nation on July 3rd, 1863, and I think we may be in that moment now. Can you comment on his rhetoric and Mayor Jacob Frey and whether they want to see unrest in Minneapolis?
Well, that's very tough rhetoric from a guy who just quit because his fraudulent activities have been uncovered. Look, Tim Walz is a joke. His entire administration has been a joke. The idea that he's some sort of freedom fighter, he's not. He's a guy who has enabled fraud and maybe, in fact, has participated in fraud. That's what this new Assistant Attorney General position is going to find out. I don't care what Tim Walz says. I care about getting to the bottom of this fraud for the American people, and I care about enforcing the nation's immigration laws. That's what we're going to stay focused on.
All right. I don't know. I don't know why my taskbar just popped up and stayed there. That was annoying. It's supposed to disappear. Dang it. Okay, so we'll move on to the next one. We cannot say that when a far-left fringe is inciting violence against our brave law enforcement officials that we're no longer going to enforce the law. That's rewarding the very people who are engaged in this garbage. So let's hear
what we have a
Vance
responsibility to do is to protect the people who are enforcing the law and protect the country writ large. Whether you're Democrat or Republican, you deserve to have the people's laws enforced in the United States of America. Now, again, I'm not happy that this woman lost her life. I'm not happy that this woman was there at a protest
shouldn't have been
violating the law.
Well, and you know what? The mainstream media said that she's a mother of how many kids does she have? 2 kids or 3 kids? I saw a headline reading that like a mother of 2 or 3, what have you, or maybe it just said mother in general, was killed by ICE agents. But for the simple fact that they said that she was a mother, why the hell was she out there fucking with federal agents when she should have been at home? I don't know, mothering
by interfering with a law enforcement action. I think that we can all recognize that the best way to turn down the temperature is to tell people to take their concerns about immigration policy to the ballot box. Stop assaulting and stop inciting violence against our law enforcement officers. That's the best way to take down the temperature.
Or take it to your representative, man. That's what they're there for. Call them.
We're not going to give in to terrorism on this. And that's exactly what's happening. People trying to antagonize, to commit acts of violence. They throw bricks at them. Sometimes they shoot
need to be arrested and imprisoned.
Sometimes they dox them. Sometimes they go to their place of residence and harass their families. This is classic terrorism. And we cannot say
100%.
that when a far left fringe is inciting violence against our brave law enforcement officials, that we're no longer going to enforce the law. That's rewarding the very people who are engaged in this garbage. The actual reward that they just got is a new Assistant Attorney General who is going to prosecute and investigate this stuff even more aggressively than before.
Well, look, I would not be the least bit surprised if the president had the ability to invoke some like act or something that's buried in federal law somewhere that would allow federal agents to have more broad arresting powers, because it doesn't really seem like that they're able to really arrest people as readily or as easily as I always thought that they had. Or I always thought they had the ability to, like, if they saw somebody friggin' jaywalking, they're federal agents. I thought their jurisdiction was just wide open, regardless of if they're DEA or FBI or I don't know, DHS or ICE agents or whoever, but apparently it's not that simple. But so I don't know if President Trump can invoke something like that, which would give them more broad power to arrest and jail. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know, but it's really frustrating that time and time again they're asking for the assistance of local law enforcement, and of course in these sanctuary states and sanctuary cities they're not gonna show up and help them. So it's really frustrating. All right, so here we go with another one. VP delivers a much-needed torching the fake news.
When I was actually walking out here, somebody sent me a photo of a CNN headline about what happened in Minneapolis.
Okay, so we already heard that
very
part.
Intentionally, because this was an attack on federal law enforcement. This was an attack on law and order. This was an attack on the American people. The way that the media, by and large, has reported this story has been an absolute disgrace, and it puts our law enforcement officers at risk every single day. What that headline leaves out is the fact that that very ICE officer nearly had his life ended, dragged by a car 6 months ago, 33 stitches in his leg. So you think maybe he's a little bit sensitive about somebody ramming him with an automobile? What that headline leaves out is that that woman was there to interfere with a legitimate law enforcement.
Wait a minute, that officer was the exact same officer that was dragged by the vehicle? Is that what he's saying? Because I didn't catch that. Because, yeah, about 6 months ago, there was an ICE agent that was dragged by a vehicle and was laid up in the hospital for a number of days. If that's the exact same agent, that is crazy. And look, at the end of the day, you have to be justified in using deadly force, which he definitely was, because they were driving the vehicle straight at him. And I showed that video yesterday on the swamp. And there was some argument that they started turning the vehicle before they opened fire. It looked like it happened at the exact same time. when he took out his gun and pointed it at the driver was when it appeared that they were just starting to turn the wheel, but by then he was already pulling the trigger. But up until that exact second where he pulled the trigger, they were driving right at him, like clearly trying to run him over.
Enforcement operation in the United States of America. What that headline leaves out is that woman is part of a broader left-wing network to attack, to dox, to assault, and to make it impossible for our ICE officers to do their job. If the media wants to tell the truth, they ought to tell the truth that a group of left-wing radicals have been working tirelessly, sometimes using domestic terror techniques to try to make it impossible for the President of the United States to do what the American people elected him to do, which is enforce our immigration laws. The President stands with ICE. I stand with ICE. We stand with all of our law enforcement officers. And part of that is recognizing that you people in the media, not everybody in this room, but many people in this room have been lying about this attack. She was trying to ram this guy with her car. He shot back. He defended himself. He's already been seriously wounded in law enforcement operations before, and everybody who's been repeating the lie.
Wow, that was the same guy.
Some innocent woman who was out for a drive in Minneapolis when a law enforcement officer shot at her. You should be ashamed of yourself.
Oh, well, absolutely. 100%. And he wasn't just defending himself. He was really just defending everybody. He was defending the public because that person was just going to try to run over other agents. So at the very least, he wasn't just defending himself. He was defending other agents. So, yeah, just absolutely just insane. And he's absolutely right. They are engaging in terrorism tactics. And it's just like, where's the end? And plus, Democrats, it wasn't the majority of Democrats who voted for the creation of ICE when they did, which I believe it was like in 2001 or no, I think it was like 2002 or 3. It was in the early 2000s when they formed ICE. But it was like 40% of congressional Democrats, they voted for the creation of ICE. So they weren't dead set against them back in the day. And of course, we weren't as hyper polarized as we are now. So this comes from Secretary Marco Rubio. Just going to change subjects. And he says today, President Trump announced the U.S. is leaving 66 anti-American, useless, or wasteful international organizations. Review of additional international organizations remains ongoing. These withdrawals keep a key promise President Trump made to Americans. We will stop subsidizing globalist bureaucrats who act against our interests. The Trump administration will always put America and Americans first. And we've got this from state.gov. Withdraw from wasteful, ineffective, or harmful international organizations. Today, in furtherance of Executive Order 14199, President Trump announced the withdrawal of the United States from 66 international organizations identified as part of the Trump administration's review of wasteful, ineffective, and harmful international organizations. Review of additional international organizations pursuant to Executive Order 14199 remains ongoing. The Trump administration has found these institutions to be redundant in their scope, mismanaged, unnecessary, wasteful, poorly run, captured by the interest of actors advancing their own agendas contrary to our own, or a threat to our nation's sovereignty, freedoms, and general prosperity. President Trump is clear. It is no longer acceptable to be sending these institutions the blood, sweat, and treasure of the American people with little to nothing to show for it. The days of billions of dollars in taxpayer money flowing to foreign interests at the expense of our people are over. Amen. As such, the United States will be withdrawing from the 66 organizations that can be found here. And we will take a look at that right now. Withdrawing the United States from international organizations, conventions, and treaties that are contrary to the interests of the United States. And let me zoom out just a little bit. This annoying social media tab is there and it blocks some of the, okay, so hold on. Maybe it won't block exactly what we're looking for. So organizations from which the United States shall withdraw. Non-United Nations organizations, and I'm not going to read them one by one. That'll take forever, but I'll just read a few of them at least. So 24/7 Carbon-Free Energy Compact, climate change. Colombo Plan Council, Commission for Environmental Cooperation. Education Cannot Wait. European Center of Excellence for Countering Hybrid Threats, Forum of European National Highway Research Laboratories. I mean, that's really obscure. Freedom Online Coalition, Global Community Engagement and Resilience Fund, Global Counterterrorism Forum, Global Forum on Cyber Expertise, Global Forum on Migration and Development, Inter-American Institute for Global Change Research, And I'll just read a couple more. Intergovernmental Forum on Mining, Minerals, Metals, and Sustainable Development. Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. And it just goes on and on. A lot of international this, international that. International Tropical Timber Organization. We're seriously sending money for that. I mean, come on, man. United Nations organizations. So these are all organizations involving the United Nations, and it goes on from there. And let's see if they have any others that are okay. So UN Energy, UN Democracy Fund, UN Conference on Trade and Development, Human Resettlements Program, UN Oceans, UN Population Fund, UN Water, UN University, UN Systems Staff College. I bet each and every single one of these, I bet they get hundreds of millions of American dollars. This is absolutely ridiculous. And looks like it just goes on to talk a bit more about what's happening. So the implementation guidance, the Secretary of State shall provide additional guidance as needed to agencies when implementing this memorandum. Nothing in this memorandum shall be construed to impair or otherwise affect the authority granted by law to an executive department or agency or the head thereof, or and so on and so forth. So you get the idea. That'll be linked below, as well as this article. This is the initial one from state.gov. As this list begins to demonstrate, what started as a pragmatic framework of international organizations for peace and cooperation has morphed into a sprawling architecture of global governance, often dominated by progressive ideology and detached from national interests. From DEI mandates to gender equity campaigns to climate orthodoxy, many international organizations now serve a globalist project rooted in the discredited fantasy of the end of history. These organizations actively seek to constrain American sovereignty. Their work is advanced by the same elite networks, the multilateral NGO-plex, that we have begun dismantling through the closure of USAID. Again, amen. We will not continue expending resources, diplomatic capital, and the legitimizing weight of our participation in institutions that are irrelevant to or in conflict with our interests. We reject inertia and ideology in favor of prudence and purpose. We seek cooperation where it serves our people and will stand firm where it does not. So glad this is happening. And they said that they're not going to stop at 66 organizations. They're going to keep digging, and dig they shall. And yeah, you're not going to get a lot of pushback from, obviously not from conservatives. You're probably not going to get much pushback from just everyday normies. I mean, look, just take a look at the national deficit. All you got to do is point to that and say, okay, do you still want to keep funneling countless millions of dollars into 66 different international organizations? I would somehow doubt that a whole lot of people would be all for it. I mean, once upon a time, a lot of liberals would be against that too. But I guess that ain't the case anymore. From Karoline, Leavitt, Trump orders U.S. withdrawal from 66 wasteful global organizations and sweeping America First crackdown. It's another article from Fox News, so if you want another perspective, that'll be linked below. And from Eugene Kontorovich, important action by the Trump administration in beginning to dismantle the opaque web of globalist institutions, including numerous organizations whose exit I have called for over the years. Some of these, here, let me make this a little larger. There we go. Some of these are minor niche orgs that do no harm, but cannot be justified from the point of taxpayer expense. Others, like the Vienna Commission, seek to manufacture, lay down astroturfed international soft law that overwhelmingly aligns with progressive values. UN Women neglected mass R-word by Hamas, but remembered Amal Clooney's birthday. The biggest item was UNFCCC, that's UN Climate Change, the official Twitter account of UN Climate Change, also in Spanish and Russian, and so on, because it was joined via a Senate-ratified treaty, making re-entry by a subsequent president almost impossible. UNFCCC violated federal law by admitting the PA as a state and will now reap the consequences. There has never been such a broad shakeout of America's position in IOs, international organizations, and it is much overdue. Needless to say, a Democratic president will undo much of this because these organizations embody their globalist worldview. But for decades, Republican presidents played along. The left had normalized their preferences as good global citizenship. Trump's action puts an end to all of that. And yeah, he's absolutely right. Assuming that a Democrat will become president again, of course, they're going to dump us right back into all of these stupid freaking programs because Democrats are a bunch of globalists at this point. They want globalism. They want to lord over the entire planet. America's not good enough. It's bad enough that they're trying to consolidate us down as some collectivist communist fucking regime, with them putting their party above the American people, party over country, which is probably another reason why they look up so much to the Chinese CCP. So anyway, there's a couple of images here. I won't go through it word for word, but I will repost it. There's a direct link to my profile in the description below, my X profile, which I don't think you have to be logged in order to view it. Maybe they've changed that. Maybe Elon Musk has changed that. But I don't think you have to be. So let's see, the UN Population Fund, whose budget Mr. Trump cut in 2017 because of its funding for abortion, says diversity, equity, and inclusion is at the heart of UNFPA's workforce. In 2021, $1 million went to the International Labor Organization for job training for gays and lesbians in Brazil. In 2022, through UN Development Program, U.S. taxpayers have funded a program called Being LGBTI in the Caribbean. Let's see, I'll read one more paragraph. So apart from ideological absurdity, this leads to massive inefficiency with the U.S. funding numerous entities with overlapping missions. The U.S. funds the UN Environment Program, the UN Convention to Combat Desertification, the International Union for Conservation of Nature, the Secretariat of the Pacific Regional Environment Program, the Global Environment Facility, the Commission for Environmental Cooperation, the Montreal Protocol, as well as others. If that weren't enough, the Global Fund for HIV, Tuberculosis, and Malaria says, quote, climate change is the largest global health challenge of the 21st challenge, or 21st century, maybe that's what they meant to say, and thus part of its mission. HIV, tuberculosis, malaria, I don't see how you can connect that with climate change, but they did. So anyway, here's just a bit more of information that he attached to his post. And again, I've already reposted that, so you can check that out. Or you could go to his handle, EV Kontorovich. You can go straight there and you can take a look at it directly from his profile. And he also posted from Rapid Response 47, President Donald Trump withdraws the United States from international organizations that are contrary to the interests of the United States. All right, so we'll move on to Secretary Kristi Noem with Operation Salvo, which happened in New York City and has removed 54 criminal illegal aliens from violent transnational gangs, including members and affiliates of the Trinitarios. These arrests and removals represent a significant blow to a criminal network that has been terrorizing American neighborhoods for far too long. DHS is on offense. The Trump administration is using every tool we have.
Operation Salvo was a cooperation of the resources of CBP, HSI, ERO, and also the federal prosecutors from the Southern District of New York. The New York County District Attorney's Office also participated in this operation. We've arrested 54 individuals as a part of Operation Salvo since its inception just a few months ago. Those arrested are violent transnational gang members and affiliates associated with Trinitarios who are responsible for weapons trafficking, for human smuggling, for narcotics distribution, and for armed robberies. They had perpetuated previous violent attacks across the city of New York City. We have already removed not only
You're welcome,
many of these individuals that we have arrested, but over 60% of them have been returned back to their home countries to face justice for their crimes there as well. These arrests and these removals represent a significant blow to the criminal network that has been terrorizing communities and right here in New York City.
Look, I would love to know how many of these individuals were already serving prison sentences and they were just let out by their country's leaders during the Biden administration. Prisons, jails all over Latin America were completely emptied, and they were sent up in caravans into the United States, and Biden just let them all in.
And throughout the United States. And that's our message to this administration, to this city, to the state, and to the United States, is that President Trump and his law enforcement officers that are entrusted to protect the American people will every day continue to keep America safe. Operation Salvo is just the beginning of a broader and a much more sustained effort to go after not only transnational criminal organizations and networks, but also illegal criminal aliens throughout the country. We are on offense. The Trump administration is using every single tool that we have to protect the American people. sanctuary policies, whether they're here in New York City, whether they're in California, Illinois, or Minneapolis. If you are a criminal, illegal alien, we are coming to get you. We will arrest you. We will bring justice, and we will also bring safety to the American people. We are warning anyone, if you think you can harm an individual, a citizen of the United States, or a law enforcement officer, we will find you and bring you to justice. If you lay a finger on one of our officers, we will catch you, we will prosecute you, and you will feel the full extent of the law.
And one thing of note is the amount of money that they're spending, the billions of dollars that they're spending on law enforcement and rounding up over 600,000 illegal immigrants so far. A sizable percentage of them are violent criminals with criminal records from the country from where they came. And I think it was the One Big Beautiful Bill that they passed last year, added something like $40 billion to the Department of Homeland Security for immigration enforcement over the next 10 years. So imagine those tens of billions of taxpayer dollars for this effort to remove all of these people that were pouring in during the Biden administration. And just imagine if or when a Democrat president gets back into office and they just open the floodgates back open again and all these same people just come pouring right back in all over again. I mean, to what end? How long would that have to go on for? Like every time the pendulum swings from the right to the left and back to the right, we're just going to be opening the floodgates and then slamming them shut, opening them up. I mean, an endless money pit to say the very least. And I mean, how long is it going to be before the wide American public, the vast majority, will finally say enough? And I don't know, maybe they will. Look, Trump administration's got a few years to go, and I just hope that congressional Republicans will do their damn jobs and start passing, meaningful legislation more aggressively and stop just acting like freaking speed bumps for Democrats. All right, so moving on to Homeland Security. Under the leadership of Secretary Noem, Operation Salvo is targeting and removing the violent criminal networks that have found sanctuary in New York City. Operation Salvo is sending a message to every single criminal illegal alien who thinks they can hide behind sanctuary policies. You can't. Leave now before it's too late. And so this one was a couple of minutes long. She probably gave at least a several minute statement. So this may be a different video. If it's a repeat, I'll just move on.
Operation Salvo is just the beginning of a broader and a much more sustained effort to go after not only transnational criminal organizations and networks.
Sounds like the same speech, doesn't it? I think it's the same speech. I think it started at the same point,
Operation
didn't it?
Salvo was a cooperation of the resources of CBP, HSI.
Okay, maybe not.
Also illegal criminal aliens throughout the country. We are on offense. The Trump administration is using every single tool that we have to protect the American people. Sanctuary policies, whether they're here in New York City, whether they're in California, Illinois, or Minneapolis. If you are a criminal, illegal alien, we are coming to get you. We will arrest you. We will bring justice, and we will also bring safety to the American people. We are warning anyone, if you think you can harm an individual, a citizen of the United States, or a law enforcement officer, we will find you and bring you to justice. If you lay a finger on one of our officers, we will catch you, we will prosecute you, and you will feel the full extent of the law. In every single thing the Trump administration does, we put the American people first. Operation Salvo has proven that by taking 54 dangerous individuals off of our streets and protecting the people who live here in this city.
Okay, so I don't think it was a repeat. Maybe some of it was repeated, but it's blood boiling to imagine that Democrats get back into power and they just reopen the southern border and all these people just pour right back in again. I mean, just absolutely infuriating. All right, so Senator John Barrasso, Democrats have changed their tune on Venezuela and Maduro because the president took action. They hate President Trump. Republicans are going to continue to support American peace through strength. So let's hear what he has to say.
Democrats want to weaken the president's ability to enforce the law of the land. That's the wrong message to send to hardened drug traffickers and to dictators. It's interesting because for years, Democrats were for holding Maduro accountable. Senator Chris Murphy, Democrat from Connecticut, tweeted in 2019 that, quote, getting rid of Maduro is good for the United States.
Yeah, so if you watched The Swamp yesterday, the White House posted a series of images of X post, Twitter post, whatever you want to call it, of Democrats that were in favor of getting rid of Maduro or doing whatever we can to take him down from his position of power in Venezuela. most of which were like in 2019, 2018. They were older posts, and then they showed the posts right after over the last week where they were completely against getting rid of Maduro and that the Trump administration shouldn't have done anything. So he's probably reading some of the same posts that the White House shared.
Chuck Schumer, the Democrat leader who will be on this floor in a few minutes, came to this very floor in 2020.
Give us a break. He hasn't brought an end to the Maduro regime.
Senator Riss Van Hollen from the Foreign Relations Committee, Democrat from Maryland, told MSNBC just last year.
The United States needs to work with our partners and allies in the region to ratchet up the pressure on behalf of the Venezuelan people.
Democrats know absolutely that President Trump did the absolute right thing.
100%.
They won't admit it on this floor. They prefer to play politics
because they become
instead.
evil.
Within the last several days, Senator Schumer called arresting
They gaslight
Maduro
and they lie
reckless.
to you.
What a change in reversal in tune. Senator Van Hollen said it was an illegal act of war, or a complete reversal of his previous positions.
Yep,
Senator
no war.
Murphy told CNN on Sunday Venezuela, he said, is not a security threat to the United States. Sure viewed it differently in the past. Evidently, they were all for it before they were against it. That's what we see with these Democrats. Something they're for, President Trump does it, now they're against it. The question I have for Democrats is, do they no longer think that arresting Maduro is a good thing? On Saturday, President Trump took bold action, and he took action to protect the citizens of this great country. We should celebrate the success in Venezuela. We should take great pride in the brave men and women who carried out the successful mission. Republicans are going to continue, Mr. President, to stand on the side of safety, security, and America, peace through strength.
All right. Well, that was pretty well said. And look, if Trump kept his primary residence in New York, he could have changed his driver's license, his gender to female, and just watched Democrat heads explode. That would have been hilarious. All right. So let's move on. U.S. Department of Energy. President Trump's historic energy deal restores prosperity, safety, and security for America and Venezuela. Morning's Maria, quote, it's incredible that President Trump has one by one looked at every issue that faces this country and is taking care of it.
Look, Venezuela was a great place, and that was great for America. Its decline has been a negative for America and American people. Everybody wins if this trajectory can be turned around and gone in the right direction. And think how brilliant President Trump is. A 25-year festering and growing problem for the U.S. and the Western Hemisphere may be solved, maybe directed in a good direction without a single American boot on the ground, except for briefly arresting 2 people indicted by the Drug Enforcement Agency. Look, we're on the cusp of something quite exciting here. It's going to be a challenge, Maria. Make no mistake about that.
It's incredible that President Trump has one by one looked at every issue that faces this country and is taking care of it.
Yep, absolutely. He's got a lot of irons in the fire. He's got a lot of stuff going on and just added Venezuela to the plate. But yeah, I mean, getting Venezuela back to stability would be, it'd be helpful for everybody, especially the people in Venezuela. House Foreign Affairs Committee majority, the federal government of Somalia stole 76 metric tons of food aid for its own people. The United States will not continue to reward blatant corruption and theft from the American people. Of course, Democrats, they're going to spin that. They're going to give like an opposite stance where we're just horrifically withholding food for the innocent, starving children of Somalia. I mean, I could already read it all. So anyway, from U.S. Foreign Assist, and this was on January the 7th, yesterday. So the U.S. is deeply concerned by reports that federal government of Somalia officials have destroyed a U.S.-funded World Food Program, WFP, warehouse and illegally seized 76 metric tons of donor-funded food aid for vulnerable Somalis. The Trump administration has a zero-tolerance policy for waste, theft, and diversion of life-saving assistance. The State Department has paused all ongoing U.S. assistance programs which benefit the Somali federal government. Any resumption of assistance will be dependent upon the Somali federal government taking accountability for its unacceptable actions and taking appropriate remedial steps. And I'm sure they're doing the same with the World Food Program and every other agency and other entity by every other country is trying to provide aid. I'm sure they're stealing all their food too. From GOP, declaring war on the federal government seems pretty inflammatory, Tim Waltz.
I've not used inflammatory terms of what happened. Well, I said this yesterday. We've never been at war with our federal government.
Okay. All right, anyway, short, not so sweet. All right, House Republicans live in Minneapolis. Federal agents are holding the line while Democrat politicians Jacob Frey and Tim Walz appear to be refusing to send local and state officers to help defend federal property. Yeah, I wouldn't count on it.
Describing this building, is that the ICE facility? That's one. And number two, do you see any local police in the past 2 days out there?
Probably never.
Not really. I mean, not really too many police. They have tried to call for backup in the past from the sheriff's department, we're told, and from the local police, and they don't show up. So that's something also that's going on. In terms of what's in the Whipple building, Bill, we're told the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement Office is in that building, along with a lot of other federal.
And look, dude, they're obstructing. They're standing in the middle of the road. That's illegal. It's illegal to stand in the middle of the street. I mean, if anything, is jaywalking, which would be a really stupid thing to freaking... Like, I don't even know if that's even an arrestable offense. I mean, it'd certainly be cited for it, but they're blocking a public roadway. What about the other citizens of Minneapolis who are trying to get to work or just trying to commute?
Offices, though, too. But that's where this protest is centered right now, with pepper balls flying and at least one
I'm sure they didn't get a permit to protest.
You're describing this building. Is that the ICE facility? That's one.
Not that Minneapolis Democrats give a shit.
Do you see any local police in the past 2 days out there?
Not really. I mean...
Oh, okay, so it already repeated. My bad. I didn't catch it repeating. All right, Homeland Security, finding the fraud. Under the leadership of Secretary Noem, Homeland Security investigators are going door to door collecting evidence and investigating fraud in Minneapolis and across the country. HSI will leave no stone unturned. The Trump administration will follow the law and is not afraid to use denaturalization and deportation. If you are complicit in defrauding the American people, your days are numbered. Well, at least they didn't torch the evidence. You know, what little evidence that they gathered. I'm sure they probably did at least actively try to destroy a lot of evidence, although a lot of stuff's digital these days. Rep. Michelle Fischbach. Whistleblowers in Minnesota were met with threats to their families and jobs while billions in taxpayer dollars were stolen. Quote, looking the other way, end quote, is not a policy. It's a betrayal to taxpayers. For years, these brave individuals were ghosted and retaliated against because there were zero criminal penalties for silencing them. That ends now. We are demanding accountability for the fraud permitted under the Walz administration.
And were the whistleblowers ever made to feel unsafe on their attempts to report fraud?
All right, let's take a quick read on this. Minnesota staff fraud reporting commentary, Minnesota_DHS. Did you know DHS is likely the only agency that flagrantly violates Government Data Practices Act? Aside from refusing to provide public data, DHS also destroys and saves documents they aren't supposed to. What's DHS hiding? Governor knows about this yet turns blind eye. Any response, DHS?
Yes, absolutely. I can give you two quotes that they have in the 7-page document that was submitted for the this committee hearing. Two things that they said is, think about your home and what if you lose your job? So these are things said to whistleblowers.
Oh,
the
wow.
second thing was, we need information about where your kids go to school and where their bus stops are.
What?
As chair of the committee, if these claims of retaliatory action are true, then it violates the law. So if these claims are true, then a state agency is violating our own state whistleblowers laws. Is that correct?
Sorry, so the whistleblower statute is for civil penalties. There is no criminal penalty for whistleblower retaliation in statute currently, but we are looking at that for the next session. But
Well,
that's
not
why
gonna do any
people
good
say,
now.
why haven't these people who've
Will it be retroactively?
retaliated against the whistleblowers been prosecuted? It's because there is no criminal penalty in statute.
Has there been anything by the Attorney General's office, and this is maybe a question that I'll ask if he's comes, anything by the Attorney General's office that would deal with that?
No, we passed a law this session to expand whistleblower protection because prior to this session, they could only report up through their supervisor or to the state attorney general. And when they did, they were either ghosted or they were retaliated against.
Wow, unbelievable. So they can successfully sue the hell out of the Minnesota government, and ultimately it's the taxpayers who are going to end up having to pay for it. Okay, Attorney General Pamela Bondi, and this is from 12:57 p.m. today. Minnesota, peacefully protesting is a sacred American right protected by the First Amendment. Obstructing, impeding, or attacking federal law enforcement is a federal crime. So is damaging federal property. If you cross that red line, you will be arrested and prosecuted. Do not test our resolve. Well, let's hope so. I know they've been arresting some people, but just doesn't appear that they're arresting nearly enough, though. All right, House Republicans, dangerous anti-ICE attacks are fueled by Democrats' extremist rhetoric. The data is undeniable. 1,300% increase in assaults against ICE, 8,000% increase in death threats. The left must denounce these agitators and stop the attacks on those who keep us safe. And this is Secretary Kristi Noem with Homeland Security.
ICE alone is facing a 1,300% increase in assaults against them and an 8,000% increase in death threats against all of them.
And look, I know it's said over and over again, those numbers, they keep getting repeated, as they should be. But I wouldn't exactly expect Democrats to tone down their rhetoric. Sadly, unfortunately, and despicably. From the GOP, we as Democrats are anti-crime. Look at that. It's a mostly peaceful protest. Remember that? Summer of Love? That's what I'm assuming it was back in 2020. The George Floyd riots. So this is from Western Lensman. And it says Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey, we as Democrats are anti-crime. He actually said this.
And so, you know, as Democrats, we got to be very clear-eyed. We are anti-crime. We are pro-safety.
Yeah, okay.
We're also pro-abiding by the Constitution, which this administration is not doing.
He can't even say that without fumbling that around because he knows he's full of shit. And everybody knows that he is. I mean, especially, I'm sure, like, above all, the progressives and the leftists, they know he's full of shit. Because they're all about crime and obstruction and dangerous, violent rhetoric, the whole 9 yards. All right, Senator Ron Johnson, yesterday's shooting in Minnesota is a tragedy that should not have happened. Unfortunately, Democrats supported Biden's open border, which created the mess that now must be cleaned up. Now the left is supporting and inciting individuals to obstruct federal law enforcement, leading to this tragic result. The incitement and obstruction must end.
Your thoughts, sir?
Yeah, it's just a tragedy all the way around. It just is. I mean, obviously for that woman and her family, for the ICE officer who's now going to go through hell. And it's all brought about by, you know, allowing the illegal immigration issue, the open borders to go completely out of control, and the Trump administration's attempt to bring it back under control, which the vast majority of Americans support. You know, we want secure borders. We don't want a flood of illegal immigrants coming to this country. You know, we don't want to see the fraud. We don't want to see the crimes. So it's just a huge mess. It's a huge tragedy. Now this is going to erupt into major protests again. Hopefully more people don't lose their lives. Hopefully there's not additional property damage, that type of thing. But you know, Katie barred the door right now. This is not good.
Yeah, 76% of Americans are in favor of mass deportations, at least according to one poll. U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement from 9 hours ago. This is who Governor Walz and Mayor Frey defend. And from Bill Milugan. New, ICE confirms to Fox that they've arrested a Somalian illegal alien S offender in Minneapolis who has a prior conviction in 2016 for first-degree criminal S conduct for forcing a victim to perform oral you-know-what on him multiple times. ICE says Mahad Abdulkadir Al-Qadir Yusuf also has prior arrest for first-degree assault and has an active warrant from 2024 for obstructing police. ICE says they previously tried to arrest him at his apartment, but the building manager blocked ICE from entering and shielded the convicted S offender. This time they got him in a targeted operation. Why didn't they arrest the manager? I'm assuming they did. They had every lawful right to do so. I'd certainly hope that the dude's still sitting in jail right now. ICE says, quote, thanks to the sanctuary policies of Minnesota Governor Tim Walz and Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey, this dangerous criminal was free to prowl the streets and victimize Minneapolis residents for years. And there he is. That's the scumbag himself that they finally got. finally arrested him, and he's going to be brought to justice. It's about damn time. No thanks to the elected officials in Minneapolis and in Minnesota. And from House Republicans, unbelievable. Democrat Congressman Joe Morrell just tried to claim that there is not violent rhetoric against our heroic ICE agents. Here are a few examples from some of your Democrat colleagues. Democrat leader Jeffries, Timu Obama, implored people to fight the Trump administration in the streets and declared ICE agents will be unsuccessful in protecting their identities no matter what it takes. Yeah, that doesn't sound like violent rhetoric at all. Rep. Pramila Jayapal called ICE agents deranged and said it is inspiring to obstruct immigration enforcement. Rep. LaMonica McIver, who was charged with forcibly impeding and interfering with federal officers, incited her supporters to shut down the city because we are at war. Rep. Norma Torres, while ICE agents were arresting illegal aliens, called for ICE to get the F out of LA. Senator Bernie Sanders asked people to figure out a way to stop ICE from what they are doing as soon as possible. Rep. Stephen Lynch smeared ICE agents as the Gestapo and nondescript thugs. Rep. Becca Balint called ICE agents vigilantes who can't be trusted. Rep. Eric Swallowswell said it was his priority to ensure ICE agents are no longer faceless, comparing them to some 1800s bank robber or some KGB officer in Russia. So here's the video clip.
Frankly, what's really frustrating about this, I saw Speaker Johnson's comments, who immediately says that there's been this effort to encourage people to engage in violence with law enforcement officers. That's not true. I haven't seen that anywhere. I actually thought Minnesota Governor Walz actually set the right tone, which is someone has lost their life. And we should be thinking about the environment in which we're creating where these things happen.
Absolutely ridiculous. Can you smell the gaslighting? Full-on gaslighting. And that's what they do to anybody who watches CNN. They completely brainwash you effectively, and they keep you far away from the truth as to what's actually happening out there. Just brain-dead rabble. That's what they're turning them into. A bunch of just brain-dead NPCs. Rapid Response 47. This is from President Donald Trump's Truth Social, and he says, it was a great honor to speak with the president of Colombia, Gustavo Petro, who called to explain the situation of drugs and other disagreements that we have had. I appreciated this call and tone and look forward to meeting with him in the near future. Arrangements are being made between Secretary of State Marco Rubio and the Foreign Minister of Colombia. The meeting will take place in the White House in Washington, D.C. And from Secretary Lori Chavez de Remer, this is a huge win for the American people. President Trump is committed to reviving the American dream by ensuring Americans could get a good-paying job and afford to buy a home. Check this out. From the White House, breaking, President Trump announces steps to ban large institutional investors from buying single-family homes. Quote, people live in homes, not corporations. President Donald J. Trump. For a very long time, buying and owning a home was considered the pinnacle of the American dream. It was the reward for working hard at doing the right thing. But now, because of the record high inflation caused by Joe Biden and the Democrats in Congress, that American dream is increasingly out of reach for far too many people, especially younger Americans. It is for that reason and much more that I am immediately taking steps to ban large institutional investors from buying more single-family homes, and I will be calling on Congress to codify it. People live in homes, not corporations. President Donald J. Trump. And they better codify that. Whatever it is he comes up with, they better do that. Because it's getting out of hand. And I really hope that they do. Because like the average age for a first-time home buyer is early mid-40s. It's like 42, 43 years old. That's the average age for a first-time home buyer today. And the average age of any home buyer in general is like mid-50s. It's absolutely insane. And like, what was it, like 10 years ago, the average first-time home buyer was like 32. Like it's just tracking straight along year for year. And it's just becoming more and more out of reach for younger millennials, pretty much any millennials really, especially Gen Z and, soon to grow up Gen Alpha. It's going to be completely out of touch or out of reach for them to be able to own a home. There's just no way. I mean, just our wages are simply not keeping up. There's not enough six-figure jobs out there. It's simple mathematics. Not everybody can get a six-figure job because there just simply aren't enough to be had. So anyway, I hope that happens sooner, way sooner rather than later. All right, U.S. Department of Labor from 6 hours ago. One of the biggest consequences of America last globalist trade policies was the collapse of our nation's industrial might. As factories shuttered and jobs offshored, communities were destroyed and families were ripped apart. For years, politicians and bureaucrats allowed this globalist status quo to continue until President Trump came to the White House. Unlike presidents before him, President Trump is committed to putting Americans first. That's why he secured record investments in our nation's industry, pursued an America First trade agenda, and is working to reshore our jobs. Under President Trump, Americanism, not globalism, will prevail. I don't think they could have put that any better. Absolutely just crushed that post. 100%. Globalism has failed. Love to hear it. Time to keep tech jobs here too. Yeah, absolutely. Stop offshoring them out to India and other countries. Critical infrastructure needs to come back. Every country needs to do the same. Yeah, that is true. A country that can't build jack squat isn't a serious country. Make America industrial might great again. And I'm sure most of the other posts are pretty closely aligned to that. Speaker Mike Johnson, remember this: every Democrat voted for record high tax increases on American families. Every Republican voted for the largest tax cuts and refunds for the American people. Only one party is making life more affordable and bringing costs down: Republicans. Well, let's see if you end up codifying Trump's soon-to-be executive order with regard to major corporations buying up everyday family houses. Here's Mike Johnson.
Every Democrat, remember this too, voted for record tax increases, while every Republican voted for record tax cuts and refunds to the people. And we hope everybody remembers that simple fact the next time the Democrats start talking about trying to make life more affordable and all this. There's only one party actually doing that. It's the Republican Party. I want to make one more point about our meeting yesterday. Both House Republicans and House Democrats, as you might have noted, held closed-door conference-wide meetings this week. House Republicans discussed how we can continue to drive down costs for working families, make our streets and neighborhoods safe again, and restore American dominance on all fronts. And meanwhile, by contrast, what were the House Democrats doing? Well, they held an emergency meeting to determine how to think about the successful ousting of an illegitimate narco-terrorist dictator who killed dissidents, poisoned Americans, and plunged 90% of his country into abject poverty.
Unbelievable. It's so ridiculous, dude. Their priorities are just insanely askew. And I'm still waiting to see if there's going to be some leftist activist federal judge that's going to overturn this indictment and immediately order the release of Nicholas Maduro. I don't think that would surprise anybody if that suddenly shows up in the news tomorrow. All right, Congressman Gabe Evans, Denver homicides were down 48% in 2025. Under Republican leadership, federal law enforcement secured the border and is crushing cartels like Tren de Aragua. Violent criminals are being taken off our streets despite sanctuary jurisdictions like Denver, who continue to handcuff local cops. And actually, let me back away from that so we can get a better view. Fox 31 Morning News. Denver's homicide rate falls by 48% in 2025. That's got to make the folks in Denver happy. Hakeem Jeffries, Timu Obama. I'm not going to watch this whole thing, but at least wanted to show that he held a press conference with Chuck Schumer today. So we'll take a couple of minutes of a watch, not 18 freaking minutes. This would be something perfect for the weekend. That way I could play the whole thing and have fun with it. But I will repost it. If you want to take a look at that, direct link to my profile in the description below, or you could go to Rep. Jeffries. All right, come on, guys. When the hell are you going to start? All right, that was probably it.
Middle-class folks and everyday Americans
cannot
simply survive, but will be able to thrive.
Let me guess. Obamacare. Of course, they're not going to say that. I mean, I don't know if anybody's noticed that. I keep repeating it over and over again. You won't hear a single Democrat say the word Obamacare. They absolutely outright refuse to use the word Obamacare, which is exactly what the Affordable Care Act is.
Leader Steny Hoyer on his announcement. Leader Hoyer is a tremendous public servant, iconic, transformational, and legendary leader. And the House Democratic Caucus will miss him, but the House Democratic Caucus is thankful for his service, for his friendship, for his mentorship, and certainly all that Leader Hoyer has done over decades of service here in
most
the People's
likely
House
propaganda,
to make life
misleading
better
the American people,
for the American people.
Funneling money to God knows
Later
what.
on today, House Democrats join by some of our Republican colleagues in a bipartisan coalition will advance legislation to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits.
Here we go.
To prevent millions
more bullshit
of everyday Americans from experiencing dramatically increased premiums.
They want to kick the can another 3 years.
That would prevent them from being able to go see a doctor when they need one. The cost of living in America is far too high.
Biden.
And from the very beginning of this Congress,
and Democrats.
House Democrats have said that we will work with our colleagues on the other side of the aisle in order to find bipartisan common ground.
No, they won't. No, they won't. They've already been clear. They shut down the fucking government for 43 days because they refused to work with Republicans. They've already been quite clear. They have no interest in working with Republicans with regard to this healthcare shit. All they want is to pass the Obamacare subsidies, the end.
If our Republican colleagues are willing to focus on making life better for everyday Americans, which means addressing the affordability crisis in this country. The affordability crisis is not a hoax. It is very real.
Yeah, thanks to Biden and you and Chuck Schumer and Democrats.
Donald Trump has had to say. Housing costs are too high. Grocery costs are too high. Utility bills are too high. Child care costs are too high. And health care costs are out of
COVID
control.
and Biden.
House Democrats, joined by Leader Schumer and Senate Democrats, have maintained from the very beginning that we were in this affordability fight until we win this affordability fight.
Well, and what's most hilarious about this is it's the blue states exclusively where the affordability is at its worst. It's exclusively blue states. I don't think there's a single red state where it's more expensive than maybe even like the most affordable blue state for that matter. All of them are wildly unaffordable. They always have been. And for people to just sit back and believe what he's saying is just laughable. But frankly, a lot of people who live in these blue states, they really honestly don't know how much more affordable it is in red states. And frankly, that's a secret that conservatives should probably kind of keep close to their chest.
We have an opportunity to take a meaningful step forward to lower the high cost of living for everyday Americans, particularly as it relates to health care. But it's a battle that we will continue.
Well, see, notice this is what Democrats do. They tell you about all the problems that are happening, but they never offer up any real solutions. They say we must do insert general thing here. Like we must pass affordable healthcare subsidies. I mean, what the hell does that even mean? I mean, in that context specifically, it just means, again, kicking that can for another 3-5 years, however long they want to extend it. But there's not been a single year where Obamacare has reduced the cost of healthcare at all. Every single year. There's not been a single year where it's been cheaper than the year prior. It's only gone up. And if they pass these subsidies, it's only going to continue skyrocketing. Because the subsidies, all it does is just mask the actual cost of Obamacare for everyday Americans. By passing these subsidies, it artificially reduces people's monthly healthcare costs, but it doesn't ultimately remove the underlying problem. And that's the main issue.
To wage on behalf of the American people. It's now my honor to yield to the highly distinguished leader of the Senate Democrats, Chuck Schumer.
Highly distinguished.
Leader Jeffries.
Can't even cook a fucking cheeseburger. Come
House
on.
Democrats for their great work and what's happening on the floor today. I, too, want to just salute Steny Hoyer for an amazing, productive career. He will be missed. Democrats are going to make health care and other high costs, the high cost of living, the number one issue for all of 2026.
Wow, they really are. Okay. All right. Well, this should be interesting. If that's what they're not going to run on climate change. They're not going to run on, I don't know, like all these Trump policies, which I'm sure they're going to run on that stuff too. You know, like with like Maduro being the latest issue that they've taken an opposite stance of. So this should be interesting if they keep bringing that up, because I think that the American people quite clearly know that it was under Joe Biden where things got wildly unaffordable, where especially grocery costs have skyrocketed, rent has skyrocketed. A lot of it not only has to do with all the COVID fallout bullshit that we had to deal with trillions of dollars being printed, although Trump isn't completely innocent in that either. During 2020, he was president, and they did pass like a multi-trillion dollar packages to combat COVID. And look, if you want to throw any cover for that. Yeah, it was a novel situation. We didn't know the extent of it. We were being gaslit by all kinds of officials from the CDC, the NIH, and other foreign officials, and so on and so forth. But I mean, it was COVID was a massive driver for inflation, which we're all really well aware of because we all lived through it. But another major driver for inflation was the widespread flooding of illegal immigrants by the tens of millions, because they all got to live somewhere. So they're going to be renting properties, which skyrockets rent. They have to eat food, so that's going to skyrocket food further. And same with utilities and everything, like literally everything. That's also what drove up costs so much. So it's going to be interesting to see how they're going to try to play that, other than them just pointing out, oh yeah, we've got a problem, and we Democrats, we're going to fix that problem, without describing how in any way that they're going to fix that problem. Because in order to fix these problems, they just want to roll out more entitlement programs, more welfare programs, and the only way they can do that is by taxing more people, especially the middle class.
American family. There are millions of them discussing this right now. How are we going to pay the bills? Do I have to put aside my retirement to pay for my higher health care costs? What am I going to do with the higher bills that I'm facing? And every day, Americans are saying to their elected officials, do something about it. Unfortunately, our Republican friends have stood in the way of doing something about it, whether it's electric costs, health care costs, housing costs, tariffs, you name it.
Yeah, when President Trump literally just today announced that he's going to be signing an executive order which is going to ban corporations from buying up individual family houses. Literally, Trump probably made that announcement probably just maybe within a couple of hours of them coming up here and talking about this.
Yesterday, we Democrats in the Senate...
Oh, but Republicans aren't doing anything.
...to talk about housing costs. And then weeks ahead, we'll be talking about the cost of groceries and the cost of electricity, the cost of goods that tariffs have increased, the cost of child...
Never happened. Tariffs didn't increase any of that.
And we will be relentless on...
Hey, how the hell does tariffs increase the cost of electricity? Explain that. Who the hell are we importing electricity from abroad? Fucking idiots, man. They absolutely count on, and he knows exactly what he's doing. He just counts on all of the people listening to be full-on morons.
On this issue. Relentless. This is what the American people are demanding of us. And here the Republicans are in their bubble. The contrast of what's going on today in the House and the Senate is glaring. In the House, led by Leader Jeffries,
it's called Democrat obstruction.
Democrats are trying to extend the credits for 3 years to reduce health care costs. In the Senate, we Democrats are fighting to prevent...
How are you going to reduce health care costs with the subsidies? Where's the subsidy money come from? Where does it come from? It comes from the American taxpayer. So you're going to take money from the Americans to give to insurance companies to make our healthcare cheaper? How in the hell does that even make any sense? That makes absolutely no sense at all. Because it doesn't work. It never has, and it never will.
In Venezuela and other countries, and endless wars. Donald Trump said last night...
Dude, he ended 9. Is the number 9 or is it 10 now? I think it's 9. Trump ended. He put an end to 9 separate conflicts across the world, most of which in just last year. And he also did the Abraham Accords. And then meanwhile, you had Democrats that were waving their Ukrainian flags on the House floor, just absolutely applauding the fact that we were handing over $100 billion over to Ukraine to keep the war funded.
Interview with the New York Times, it could take years.
Oh, but Democrats are anti-war.
Problem in Venezuela. That is not what Americans want. So Democrats in the House and Senate are focusing on lowering your costs, dealing with affordability. Republicans, led by Donald Trump...
I can't wait to hear how they're going to do that. Because they won't tell us.
Are focused on spending our treasure and, God forbid, lives.
Oh my God, dude, they're so full of shit. I had enough with their bullshit. I mean, dude, I would love to watch the rest of that, but I'm running, well, not really exactly running out of time. Actually, it's just so far turning out to be kind of a short show, but whatever, I'll move on from that. House Democrats today, the House will vote on Democrats' bill to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits. This legislation is critical to ensuring millions of Americans can afford their healthcare premiums. We won't stop fighting to protect this lifeline for families. So we're going to attempt to raise your tax money or just add more money to the national deficit, essentially stealing from our grandchildren. So we're going to try to artificially make our healthcare cheaper, which totally isn't going to work because it didn't work last time, didn't work the time before, it didn't work when they first rolled out Obamacare, and it's never going to work, not as long as Democrats are in control of it. All right, so anyway, FBI Director Kash Patel, January 8th, he's got another update. As I said yesterday, every day, FBI Director Kash Patel is posting a new fact or a new update as to what the FBI is doing to make the Bureau more efficient, more effective. So he says for today, he's announcing this FBI is cutting waste, streamlining operations, and saving the taxpayers millions following President Trump's executive order on implementing the President's Department of Government Efficiency Cost Efficiency Initiative. In 2025, we conducted an exhaustive review of our contract spending that resulted in a savings of over $316 million and $1.2 billion in overall contract ceiling savings, a huge number for the FBI. We're also evaluating our real estate footprint, especially thanks to our new headquarters building move and shuttering unnecessary real estate leases. By consolidating locations, we're saving the taxpayers millions in rent payments, $10 million in annual rent payments from closing one downtown DC lease alone, with dozens of additional sites under review. Saved funds are now being allocated to crush violent crime and defend the homeland as we work to keep Americans safe. No more wasting money on bloated, inefficient, bureaucratic projects that will take decades to benefit the taxpayer. We're putting the money in delivering results where it matters and bringing record results. Historic 20% drop in nationwide murder rate, 100% increase in arrests year to year, 2,000 plus kilograms of fentanyl seized, which is up 31%, enough to kill 150 plus million Americans. Over 6,000 child victims have been located, which is up 22%, and espionage arrests are up 35%. So doing a lot of good in the FBI. It's about damn time. Secretary Kennedy, ultra-processed foods are out. Whole, nutrient-dense foods are in. This will transform the American dietary culture and make America healthy again.
Today, about 50% of the calories that our children eat are ultra-processed foods or highly 50% carbohydrates. That's literally poisoning them. And that is the result of a food pyramid that was driven by mercantile impulses that put Fruit Loops at the top of the fruit pyramid. We now have a science-based food pyramid that is based upon the most recent best science. And it's telling people to eat proteins, eat a lot of fruits and vegetables and whole grains. And that is going to transform the American dietary culture. Today, about 50%.
Well, especially if they integrate that into SNAP benefits, which I know like a relatively small percentage of Americans, they get SNAP benefits. And fortunately, or at least hopefully, they will stick to that 2-year maximum where you can only be put on SNAP benefits, food stamps for a period of 2 years. And during that 2 years, you have to work. You have to work at least 20 hours a week. But even still, I think 18 states at this point, they've removed junk food from the eligibility, or at least what you can use with your SNAP benefits and food stamps. But I don't know, man. A lot of people got a lot of bad habits, especially with regard to eating. This is a good time of year to be rolling all this out, being in January with everyone's New Year's resolutions, trying to get healthy. So hopefully a lot of people will get on board with it. The only problem that a lot of people face, especially with our affordability crisis, as the Democrats keep putting it, healthy food's a lot more expensive, and that's problematic. So I know that they're going after the big beef industry with regard to price gouging. As I showed yesterday with the big egg, or maybe that was the day before, at least this week, I went over the 3 big egg producers, and they're being investigated right now for price gouging when we had that quote-unquote egg shortage last year, which we were paying like freaking $10 for a carton of eggs. And so they're going after big food industries for jacking up prices where they shouldn't be. So maybe hopefully we'll get some more relief on our healthy food so we can start eating more of it. All right, from the U.S. Army, warriors in the ring and on the battlefield. Watch these soldiers compete in the All Services Combatives Tournament at the Conroy Bowl in Hawaii in October of 2025.
They have that toughness in them. They have lethality built into their very core. Those are the guys that win.
All right. Well, it's cool they're fighting in uniform or what do they call it, like camis or whatever. I don't know. I wasn't in the military, but that's kind of cool that they fight in their uniforms because, like God forbid that they're ever in a combat situation. I mean, that's more or less what you're going to be wearing. All right. So that was cool. All right. Travel Gov from 11 hours ago. We issued travel advisories with levels 1 through 4. Level 4 means do not travel. We assign level 4 based on local conditions and or our limited ability to help Americans there. These places are dangerous. Do not go for any reason. The travel advisories for the following countries are currently at level 4. Do not travel. So if you travel to any of these countries and you get kidnapped or, God forbid, whatever happens, U.S. government ain't going to be able to help you because they just don't have the resources there to do so. So that includes Afghanistan, Belarus, Burkina Faso, Burma, Central African Republic, Haiti, Iran, Iraq, Lebanon, Libya, Mali, Niger, North Korea, Russia, Somalia, South Sudan, Syria, Ukraine, Venezuela, and Yemen. Find the travel advisory for your destination at the following link, which will be at travel.state.gov. And rolling on down to the next, U.S. National Archives. We're opening the vault with baseball in the National Archives Museum. That's a pretty good time. And we've got the preseason kicking off in a couple of months, I think. Now through March 4th, visitors will see rare documents and artifacts related to America's pastime with connections to all-stars like Ted Williams, Roberto Clemente, and Hank Greenberg. Let's take a look at this. All right, there you go. Open in the vault, National Archives. I believe it's free to go. I do believe that it is. I don't think you have to pay to go to see the National Archives or the Library of Congress. On this day in 1963, Mona Lisa was unveiled at the National Gallery of Art in D.C., alone arranged by First Lady Jacqueline Kennedy. The painting was also displayed at the Met before returning to France in March. This was one of the few times Mona Lisa has left the Louvre since 1804. How about that? That's very cool. What did they say? 1963? Yeah. On this day in 1963. So January 8th, 1963, man. Mona Lisa was unveiled right here in the United States of America. And I got this from the International Space Station. So, we're getting toward the end. Update: NASA is closely monitoring a stable medical situation involving one International Space Station crew member and evaluating all options, including an early Crew 11 return, with further updates expected within 24 hours. So I don't know if they may have provided an update to this webpage. It does. It looks like it, that they do have an update. So as an update to our earlier communication regarding a medical situation aboard the International Space Station, the matter involved a single crew member who is stable. Safely conducting our missions is our highest priority, and we are actively evaluating all options, including the possibility of an earlier end to Crew 11's mission. These are the situations NASA and our partners train for and prepare to execute safely. We will provide further updates within the next 24 hours. So, and that was posted today. So it sounds like it's an ongoing situation. And I believe, is this, okay, so, oh yeah, here we go. This is NASA's profile. I think that they had a press conference earlier today. I didn't include it because it was really lengthy. Yeah, so here we go. NASA leadership discusses the space station and its crew. I think it was like an hour long, wasn't it? Or 39 minutes. So let me see if I can at least get to the announcement if they let us know like exactly what's going on.
Dr. JD Polk, many of you online. Today's press conference to provide updates regarding the operation of the International Space Station. Thank you to those of you for joining us here in person today, and the many of you online. I'm Bethany Stevens, NASA's press secretary, and your moderator today. Our participants in today's briefing include Administrator Jared Isaacman, Associate Administrator Amit Kshatriya, and Chief Health and Medical Officer Dr. JD Polk. Each of the participants will provide opening remarks and updates prior to shifting to Q&A. With that, I'll give the floor to Administrator Isaacman.
I'm assuming he's going to start with the health condition of the astronaut.
Thank you, Bethany, and thank you for everyone being here on short notice. So for over 60 years, NASA has set the standard for safety and security in crewed space flight. In these endeavors, including the 25 years of continuous human presence on board the International Space Station, the health and the well-being of our astronauts is always and will be our highest priority. Yesterday, January 7th, a single crew member on board the station experienced a medical situation and is now stable. After discussions with Chief Health and Medical Officer Dr. JD Polk and leadership across the agency, I've come to the decision that it's in the best interest of our astronauts to return Crew 11 ahead of their planned departure.
Oh, wow, they are going to return.
Within the coming days, the Dragon Endeavour spacecraft will depart the International Space Station with Commander Zena Cardman, pilot Mike Fink, Kimya Yui from JAXA, and Oleg Platonov of Roscosmos, and safely return them to Earth.
Oh, dude, that sucks, man. They just went up there just a couple of weeks ago. I think it was like right before Thanksgiving. They haven't been up there for that long at all. And usually when they go up for like 6 months, sometimes 8 months or even longer. So that's a big bummer, man.
We expect to provide a further update within the next 48 hours as to the anticipated undock and reentry timeline. Over the last 5 months, Crew 11 contributed to the ongoing operations of the space station, conducted extensive scientific research, completed the majority of their mission objectives, and upheld the standards of professionalism for which astronauts are known. Crew 12 is currently scheduled to launch as soon as mid-February. Alongside our international and commercial partners, NASA is evaluating their timeline to include earlier launch opportunities.
Man, dude, it's going to be a busy month for NASA. Actually, the next 6 weeks is going to be busy for NASA because it's February the 6th, if I'm not mistaken. That's the earliest window that they have to launch the Artemis 2 mission that will take the astronauts around the moon. So that's coming up in about a month. And I think the window closes like in like April or something like that. So they've got a pretty wide window when they're gonna do that mission, but also sending up another group of astronauts up to the space station. And then they're about to return these astronauts in the coming days. So there's a lot happening.
We will provide more information when it's available. In the meantime, NASA astronaut Chris Williams, having launched to the station on November 27th on Soyuz MS-28.
There you go, November 27th. Well, there were actually 4 of them, I thought. I thought there were 4 of them that all went up together.
Maintains our American presence in space and will support the space station's operations and scientific efforts.
Oh, okay, so he's going to stay. So he's not coming back. He's going to stay up there.
NASA astronauts and our teams in mission control and our professionals who train for every possible scenario at every step of the mission, including moments just like this. I'm proud of the swift effort across the agency thus far to ensure the safety of our astronauts, and I know NASA and our commercial partners will successfully bring Crew 11 safely home. And with that, I'll turn it over to Associate Administrator Amit Kshatriya.
Okay, all right. Well, that's all I really needed to know. So yeah, man, they're cutting their visit to the space station short. That's got to be hard to hear for them. Although, you know, if one of their crew members, if they're in bad condition medically, you know, they got to do what they got to do. You know, they'd want the same thing if they were in that situation, where if they had a medical emergency. It's kind of irritating that they didn't say exactly what happened. So I don't know, maybe something heart related or. I don't know. Hopefully it's nothing too serious. Okay, so I've got this to finish up with. NASA Universe Discovery Alert. WISPIT-2b is the first baby planet to be photographed in a gap that formed within its star protoplanetary disk. And you can learn more here, but I believe that this is a video. It is a video. So looks like an artist rendering. I mean, they do say photograph, so I'm assuming we're going to get an actual image of it.
Photographing a baby planet in a ring around a star? This discovery is out of this world. Researchers have discovered a young protoplanet, or a planet that's still growing, called WISPIT-2b. This protoplanet is a massive gas giant, already about 7 times the mass of Jupiter. Even more interesting, WISPIT-2b was spotted in a ring-shaped gap circling a young star. This is the first time that this has ever been observed. But what does it mean? Well, some stars are surrounded by disks of dust and gas called protoplanetary disks. And sometimes Gaps form in these disks, creating rings of empty space. Scientists have long thought that planets could form in these gaps and that they did form in these gaps. But it wasn't until now that we've actually seen it and even directly photographed it.
There we go.
Making it an
I was hoping they would actually show a photograph of it. So this is from the Magellan Telescope and the Large Binocular Telescope. I'm surprised it wasn't taken by James Webb. Yeah, there you go. WSPA 2b. That's a planet. Planet around another star outside of our solar system. How cool is that?
Science.
Hell yeah, man. That's awesome. Yeah, they keep advancing astronomy, and it's great. I absolutely love astronomy. Always have since I was pretty much old enough to read, really. So that is going to do it for this episode. If you enjoyed the video, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. And I'll drop a new show every evening covering the swamp Monday through Friday and everyone living in it, the politicians, bureaucrats, and agencies. By the way, I may not be doing a show tomorrow evening. I have a last-minute weekend camping trip happening, and I got to get ready for it. But if I have time, I will do a show. Either it'll be a full swamp episode like tonight, or maybe if I don't have enough time to put it together, I'll probably just dig through a bunch of deranged Democrat posts at least, or something like that. But either way, I'll have some fun at someone's expense over on the other side of the aisle. Anyway, but if I do have to cancel, I will drop a post on the channel earlier in the evening, just a quick message saying that I won't be able to do the swamp. I probably won't be back until probably Sunday evening. So I probably won't have time to do anything over the weekend. So, worst case, I'll be back on Monday. Or best case, I'll be back here tomorrow and I'll do Friday's episode. And by the way, I also post daily episodes over on X, so feel free to comment over there too if you'd like. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you have a great rest of your night, and God bless America.